Hello, Jacob. At long last, we are back at Shook Book, the vlog in which two actors read books that in one way or another leave them shook. Now, I have been extremely busy at my new internship here at Cincinnati Playhouse in the Park. We have been touring the Jungle Book to schools and community centers. We have been understudying Miss Bennet, Christmas at Pemberley, which is a delightful sequel to Pride and Prejudice, and that is also really cool and funny and subtly feminist. That's now on the main stage at Cincinnati Playhouse in the Park, so if you're in Cincinnati, you should definitely get tickets for that one. So I haven't had a whole lot of time to make vlogs or even to read all that much. Which is why I only finished an absolutely remarkable thing just a few days ago, even though it came out like a month ago, right after my birthday. And it was the best birthday present ever, and I loved it. I try not to regret any of what has happened to me in the last few years. I don't know if I'd be happier or if the world would be a better place if I hadn't involved myself or if the universe hadn't involved me, but that's okay. What I do regret is how I engaged with the defenders. In the weeks and months before July 13th, I distilled a diverse group of individuals down to a few of their beliefs. Those beliefs were based on fear, and so all my arguments began and ended with the same thought: you're all cowards. I didn't say those exact words out loud, but they heard them anyway. The people who supported Carl and supported me heard it too, and they loved it. They wanted me to say it all the time. Reasoned, caring conversations that considered the complexity of other perspectives didn't get views. Rants did. Outrage did. Simplicity did. So simple, outraged rants is what I gave people. And what I had heard before I read this book over and over and over again is that it is a commentary on fame. And so when I walked in, I didn't realize how unsubtle that commentary was going to be. But I think that there are rich layers of social commentary here. Yes, it's a commentary about fame, but it's also a lot about divisiveness and how we form opinions. The reason I love Hank and John Green so much is because I feel like right now, a lot of people are talking about tribalism, and they're talking about political tribes in particular. But Hank and John Green are some of the only people who are actually doing something about it. Hank and John's lives and livelihoods largely exist in the social internet, the breeding ground for outrage culture. And they use their platforms to speak out against outrage culture and to speak out for seeing complexity. I think they're actually a large part of why I think the way that I do, because during my formative teenage and college years, I was reading and listening to and watching a lot of Hank and John Green. I'm really against outrage culture. I mean, if you feel outrage at things that are happening, that is totally valid. But if you don't feel outraged, that's also totally valid. In my opinion, the problem with outrage culture is that it actively counteracts social progress. Yes, it's valid to feel outraged, but at some point you have to be able to step back from that in order to engage with the people who are causing you outrage. You can't change anything, and you certainly can't change anyone's minds if you are coming from a place of righteous outrage. Ultimately, it's the righteousness that's the problem. The outrage creates insular places on the internet where everybody shares the same opinion. And that causes righteousness, which is the firm belief that you're right. And that prevents you from being able to listen to other people. And ultimately, you will never change somebody's mind if they think that they can't be heard at all. In other words, outrage culture does nothing except fuel more outrage. It doesn't change anything. It just helps you surround yourself with people who already think like you. But also, how can you be so sure that you're right if you don't even know what the other side is saying? This is why people are able to drive themselves into such extremist frenzies that they send bombs to national officials or run into synagogues and start shooting. They've never engaged with any other ways of thinking, so why would they believe differently? But Jacob, speaking of the social internet and the way we think about things, I have a question for you. I was recently talking to some of my colleagues about books and about reading, and a couple of them said that they don't read anymore, that they used to like reading, but that now they have trouble focusing on books and are too tempted to check their phones all the time. But the way I think about this is that it's not that the books are too boring, it's that I have a millennial popcorn brain. In other words, my brain has been shaped by social media and by other short forms of media so that I have trouble focusing on and ingesting longer forms. After all, I spend so much time reading 140 characters on watching episodes of television instead of watching movies, and reading articles instead of reading books. But I personally see this as a character flaw in myself. I want to be able to focus on things, especially because I'm an actor, and so I have to be able to pay attention to my scene partners on stage for long periods of time. I also think that books are really important and I want to keep reading them. So usually if I find myself getting distracted while reading, I'll just brute force my way through it. I will stay in front of that book with the book open until I'm finally able to focus, which usually takes like half an hour or so. But I'm really interested, and this comes back to the Ralph Waldo Emerson question that we've been talking about so much. Is this inability to focus actually a character flaw, or is it just a sign that media needs to change for a changing generation of people? Do you find yourself distracted by the social internet when you're trying to read books or do other things? And if so, what do you try to do to combat that, if anything? That's all I got for today, kids. I'll see you next time.